With a bigger push towards active travel, we've been told that we need to get up on bikes a bit more, and I just don't know how practical that is. So today I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to try and swap out the family car today for this, the Riese Müller Multitinker. So what exactly am I doing today? Well, I've got four main things to do. The first one is that I have to drop something off at the post office. Then I got to do the bottle bank, the glass recycling. I have to drop into town to pick something else up. And then finally on my way home, what I'm going to try to do is to pick up the family's weekly shop using this bike alone. Now the weather's pretty good, as you can see. It's about 10 or 12 degrees, there's sunshine, a few clouds mixing around, not too much wind, so conditions are nice for this. And all in all, I'm probably going to end up doing something in and around that 10 to 15 kilometers. Before we head off today, let's just do a quick rundown of the bike. Now I'm not going to go into much detail because I'm going to have another full video on this, a full review of it, where we go out, we do a little bit of a range test, talk about the battery, adaptability, comfort, suspension, and that so on. But look, today there's a few little highlights for the purposes of what we're doing that I want to tell you about. Front suspension will come in handy because we're going to have a bit of a load on the bike today. That's lockable and unlockable. We've got disc brakes on the front, a little lock there. But what's built in here is going to be important to us because we need the battery power to get around. And in there is a 625 watt hour battery made by Bosch. And there's a little key there. You just put that in, turn it, and then a little lever there to unlock the bike, and that'll pop out. Now this thing is actually handy because you can bring this with you, charge it up there, or plug it into the side at the back here with the battery built into it. So we really like that, and we're going to depend on that a little bit today. Now, pop it back in. It's actually really easy to do, which is great. So, what's built in here is really, really important because I'm going to have a lot of luggage between myself and all the shopping and stuff like that. I could have 120, 130 kilos today. Now, we've got the Bosch Performance line. It's down here on the other side. This is the CX Performance line. So we've got 85 Newton meters of torque in there. Now, because of regulations, I can only get 250 watts continuous power at any one time, but that should be enough to get me up hills with plenty of cargo. Now, two really important things today is luggage and bags and so on, and carrying things around. So there's a lovely little platform here. Now we have this option extra, which is a bag that you can just fully detach, which is great. And I actually used that last night when I went up to the swimming pool to do some training. I was able to throw my wet togs in there into a waterproof bag, detach that, bring it in. It's got shoulder straps, great feature. On the back here, now we have this kitted out thanks to the guys in Green Air. They were great. They set us up with this. So we've got the passenger kit on that, which is this padding just here. But they also fit this frame around, which is great. And I've had the two children on this already. They can sit there, place to put their legs. But the key thing for me with this frame around it for what I'm doing today is that I've got a basket that fits perfectly into here. And there's companies that make them dedicated with all different covers and shapes and sizes. But I should be able to get the basket in there full of the empty glass bottles and then refill that with the shopping later on today. But look, I think that's enough about it. Oh, one last thing as well. Sorry, we've got the Bosch display just here. Now, I recently had a Mustache J on, and I've had a different Riese Müller, the Charger 4 before. And it had, I suppose, a better screen, really, much more adaptability. You could connect it with your phone. This one's a little bit more basic. It's that analog screen, but you know what? It does the job. And in fact, there's something nice to it. It's just a little bit more of a simple display. We've got regular gears just here. So we don't have the belt driven. This is just an old-fashioned chain. And I used to say, oh, the belt-driven one was great, the carbon belts, much less maintenance, you know, you can just change the gears around whenever you want, you don't have to be moving. But now that I've been using this for a couple of days, I just find it a little bit easier to find the right gear and the right cadence when I've got 10 different gears here, switched by your forefinger and your thumb. I think that's enough going on about it. Let's hit the road. One thing I would say to you is if you like the look of a bike like this or any e-bike, just go and test one. It's really easy to do. So I used the guys at Green Air and they're absolutely fantastic. Based in Sandyford in Dublin, they have a service centre in Dublin City Centre, Mullingar, they have a couple of other places as well. And they're just really, really helpful. They come in, they talk you around the bike, they show you what's what, the motor, explain everything to you, set you up, and you head off and take one out for a test spin just to get a feel for it. And it really is the best way. So thanks very much to the guys in Green Air for setting me up with this one. So there you can see we've got 57%. The total distance done is 33, so we'll be able to match that up against what we have at the end of the day and see how the battery gets on. So that's collection 1 done at the post office just there. I've got the bike locked to the lamppost just there. As you can see, it's handy enough to lock, but the interesting thing as well actually is that the car spaces outside the post office are all full, and I would have had to park a couple, 2-3 minutes walk down the road, so actually saved myself a little bit of time there, which was nice. But look, that's only the first one, a lot more to go. Let's hit the road again. I'm really struck by kind of how easy that was there. And one thing that I did just learn was the crates here, there is a little bit of space in there, and if I was doing something like this regularly, I'd get a bespoke crate made, and there's companies that do that for you. And I would easily slot in, this thing takes the weight, no bother, and then I can reuse that for the shopping that I'm going to be doing in the second trip after this one. But yeah, apart from the very, very loud clinking noises that are publicly announcing me as a terrible alcoholic as I cycle down the road over every little bump, but otherwise it's going very, very well. So we've just arrived at our third stop at Scotch Hall Shopping Centre. I've been to the shops to buy something, and I have the Riese Müller locked up here, and it's kind of just struck me now. Let me actually just flip the camera around. I've got this locked up. So we have the chain lock just there, it goes into that bracket on the side of the wheels around the post and the frame as well. And then I've also got this Zefal one which is going around this pole and the pillar of the seat post there. So it's well locked up. Switch the camera back around, but this thing that just struck me, the first time I'm leaving it on its own for 15-20 minutes as I go to the shops now, and security is an issue for me. Maybe it's just because I have this bike on loan. I'm a little bit worried about kind of having something that's worth about 5 or 6 grand stolen on me, but I suppose you get insurance, you get used to it, you just learn to trust it. But for me, it's just a little bit nervous at the moment. But look, fingers crossed, it'll come back out in 20 minutes, it'll still be here. So we've just collected the shopping there at Tesco. It was seamless. A lovely woman called Sarah was there to help out when we arrived. The first time she's ever had a bike pulling up to the drive-through or the click and collect before. But yeah, it was really, really easy. So swapped out the basket, put the empty one back, and then put all the shopping into this one basket just here. Can you see that? Yeah, there we go. But also put some delicate stuff into my backpack, eggs and stuff like that. And then there's more of the heavier things in this pouch at the front here. And there's actually a huge amount of space. Like, we got the family shop in there and we could fit definitely two, maybe even 3 times that amount. So I'm really impressed with this so far. Now we've a couple of hills on the way back and there's an extra kind of 15-20 kilos on the bike, so we'll see how that goes. But let's hit the road and head home. Or before we go, let me just show you. So we are down to 46% and we've done 6 kilometers so far. We've just left Tesco with all the shopping on our bags here, coming through a little roundabout structure, and I just was wondering about stability, with the extra weight on and the boxes in the back. It's absolutely fine. I can feel a little bit difference. The tail feels just a little bit heavier, a little bit easier to kind of loll about at the back, but no, it feels absolutely fine. I've no worries with that at all. One thing I'm really enjoying about this, I hope you guys can hear me because the wind is really strong. We're on a very bumpy patch of road just here. And I knew it was coming up though because this is around the area where I live. So I was able to reach down and just click on the suspension there, and you can open that up to make it really, really soft. And it's just kind of cruising over the bumps a little bit easier now, which is making it much more comfortable considering the extra load I've got. Oh, here's another really bumpy patch now. Absolutely fine. Yeah, I can feel the back, the energy kind of coming through the seat post a little bit. Oh, here's a really bumpy patch coming up. Oh, with the suspension open at the front, it just glides over. So there's nothing to it at all. Big chunky tires help. We've got the gel saddle. It's amazing how much of a mixed impression I have of enjoying the cycle so far. Like there's some spots that were just really, really quiet with a wide open road and a bike lane there. A couple of underpasses as well that don't have access to cars, and it's just so enjoyable for nipping around. Yet some of the roads that I'm on, when it gets a little bit tighter, just those interaction with cars, it's just not pleasant at all, to be honest. And we could really do with much better infrastructure there to help. So I'm pulling out here, there's cars double parked, crossing over white lines. Cars trying to pull in. Yeah, it's awkward. You can get up some speed on this thing. There's a little bit of a headwind into me at the moment, and I can feel that the motor cuts out at 25 kilometers an hour. And yeah, no, there I am into the wind now. But I can still carry 30 kilometers down this hill easy enough. And I have actually hit 50 on this bike yesterday coming down a hill. I think there's a little bit of a wind behind me as well. So you can really keep up the speed. And then when you're on a kind of a steeper incline, just give it a little bit of welly on the pedals, but the motor will kick in behind you and you'll keep up that 25 kilometers an hour as well. Hope nobody robs my shopping out of the back of this as I'm sitting here at the lights. I find myself looking over my shoulder a little bit. No, as long as they keep moving, they'll be doing very well. What are they going to snatch? 6 eggs. And if they do, hopefully they drop it on themselves and ruin their clothes. So we are just coming up to a very steep hill here, and we've got that a lot of extra weight now between me, the bags and the shopping. So I'm pedaling a little bit harder, but the bike is still keeping up that 24 and a half kilometers an hour there. And this is brilliant. You know, I don't think I could put this much effort in, but then again, you're only going to be going up the hills for a minute. And now that hill, it's not as steep anymore, it's pretty easy to keep up the 25. We turn over on the corner, bring us onto the flat again. One push of the pedals with the motor and back up to 25, and it just coasts along. There's different modes on this bike, which is worth mentioning because it really will impact on how you cycle, the speed you're going at, how far you can go and so on. But for me, what I've been doing today, because I knew I wasn't going to be doing that much distance, is I just stuck it straight into turbo mode. That gives you all the power you can get. And it makes the driving so much easier. But just for a moment, I'm going to put it down, and it's a click of a button here. So there's 4 different levels. Drop down third one, and let's go down into eco mode. And I can really feel the power just dropping off. Now a little bit of effort on my part, and I can feel the motor assisting as well. I'm still keeping up 25, but it's quite different. It does feel very, very different. Now I'd get a lot more range out of it. I mean, you're talking double the range if you cycle it like this. But let me put it back into turbo mode because I can see lights up there. Oh yeah, power comes back in. You're straight up to 25. And we made it through the lights, which we wouldn't have done in eco mode. Get in. And here we are. Going into home, suspension coming up. Ah yeah, brilliant. And here we are back home. What a journey that was. Let me put this up on the stand. That's great, a little bit warm there at the moment. You can see the sunshine. But you're just not overheating because you got the electric motor there. And I have absolutely loved that. I feel much fresher than I would have otherwise. So I've just put the shopping away, I had to get some things in the fridge and freezer, and we're back out, and I think it's just time to round up. And for me, this is quite an important part of the video as well, because we just get to reflect on how the bike performed today. Were there any pros or cons, how much did it cost and things like that. So we'll get stuck into that now. So the Bosch motor that's tucked away in here, that's the performance line, the CX, and it performed an absolute treat today. Would I want more power or torque in this? I don't think so. I think there was absolutely loads in it. I went up some pretty steep hills today between myself, the luggage on the back. I mean, you're talking, what, give or take 130, 140 kilos, something like that. And this had absolutely no bother keeping up that max speed of 25 kilometers an hour in terms of pedal assist. So it's really not lacking at all. Now, you only get 250 watts of continuous power, but it can peak higher than that when it's needed. And also, it's just so torquey compared to the weight of the bike and me that you just don't need anything else. It's really, really impressive. There's nothing to learn or suggest there. That stuff's good. Let's also have a chat about what's in there, the battery, and how did that get on today. So I scribbled down a few notes on the paper here. We started off with 57% battery and we were 36 by the time we came back here into the driveway. So that's 21% of the battery used. But here's what we need to know. If you extrapolated that out to a full battery, that would be a range of 55 kilometers based on what we did today. Now do remember that I was going full blast in turbo mode, up hills. We had an extra, 30 or 40 kilos between equipment and luggage and stuff like that in there as well. So really we're pushing it today and would get 55 kilometers. But I worked it out that is 21% of the battery is 131 watt hours of energy. My day rate that I pay here at home is 24 cents. So I would have used 3 cents of electricity to get me to do all that. And I did some quick numbers. If I had a mid-sized SUV, one of the most popular ones in Ireland, I reckon I would have used around that kind of 8 litres per 100 kilometres mark, in which case I would have spent €54, which is 51 times the cost of electricity that I used on this bike. I know, a little bit flippant, but anyway, just goes to show. And like, we got up to 37 kilometres per hour as the max speed. We get all that on the trip meter just there. We averaged 20.2. And it was a total of 33 minutes actual riding time on the bike, even though we spent a couple of hours overall. So in terms of cost, I mean, I know they're a little bit, they have a chunky price tag up front. This one is give or take about $6,000 depending on how you spec it. But in terms of the maintenance, the cost to run it over time, you make so much of that back. I saved maybe €2 to €3 on parking today, where I didn't have to, I just locked it up outside, didn't have to pay for parking. I also saved myself a little bit of time because there was a bit of traffic today and I was able to nip around cars, just get there a little bit faster. So it's a big thumbs up. In terms of pros and cons, well, I think it's mostly pros for this. I mean, the cost, it's so much cheaper to run one of these than it would be to get around in a car. I saved myself a lot of time today because that second car that I use is normally for little short hops, small runs, tends to be at rush hour and traffic, and this thing just nips around a lot faster and just saves me a little bit of time compared to what I would normally use it for. It's better for your health and the environment, but we'll skip over that because we don't want people jumping on the comments raging about that. It seems to trigger people for some reason. There are a few cons though. Now today the weather was really, really nice, and it's not always going to be like that. You're going to have to get up on this bike in the depths of winter and lashing of rain. Now, to answer that, really, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad preparation or bad equipment. So you'd get yourself, the proper rain jackets and a pair of gloves, and you'd be fine up on this thing. So that's not really a con when it comes down to it, is it? But for some people, it's going to annoy them. One thing that did really bug me today, and it's strange as someone who drives a lot more, it's the cycling infrastructure. It's just not there. Now for 99% of the cars that passed me today were absolutely fine, but there were a couple of close passes, and when I put my 2 kids on the back of this bike cycling around town at rush hour, I really would be very, very reticent to do that. So we just need a little bit more protection out there for cyclists to make these things easier. And the more cars you get off the road, the people that are still in their cars will get there a little bit faster. At the start of the video, we asked the question, could you swap out this e-bike, this long-tailed Riese Müller Multitinker, for the second car? And the answer to me, based on what I've learned today, is absolutely yes, I could. Now that might not work for everybody, depends on where you live, the kind of climate that you live in, what sort of journeys are you doing. But for me, yeah, it would be an easy, straight swap. Now, it costs a lot of money up front, but I think you make that back over the space of a few years. Carries luggage, fantastic, there's plenty of power, there's great range in it. And for all those little extra jobs where you don't need to be traveling 100 kilometers in a day, or you don't need to be putting 500 kilos of luggage into the back of a car, I think that this does the job. It's hugely impressive.